Maya Thompson adjusts her worn purse strap and steps into the gleaming marble lobby of Mercy General Hospital. The antiseptic smell mingles with expensive perfume from well-dressed patients scattered across leather chairs. At 7 months pregnant, her modest sundress stretches over her growing belly as she approaches the reception desk, clutching a folder of medical records that have seen better days. "I have an appointment for my prenatal checkup," Maya says softly to the receptionist, who barely glances up from her computer screen. "Name?" "Maya Thompson. 2:30 appointment with Dr. Richardson." The receptionist's fingers pause over the keyboard. Her eyes travel from Maya's face down to a simple wedding ring, then to a second-hand purse. "I'll need to see your insurance card." Maya retrieves a slightly bent Medicaid card from her wallet. The receptionist's expression shifts almost imperceptibly as she examines it, then slides it back across the marble counter with 2 fingers, as if avoiding contamination. "Please have a seat in the waiting area." 20 minutes pass. Maya watches as 3 other women, all white, all adorned in designer clothing and sparkling jewelry, are called back for their appointments despite arriving after her. Her hand instinctively moves to her belly as the baby kicks, and she checks her phone. 2:55 p.m. At the nurse's station, Rebecca Martinez, a sharp-featured woman in her 50s with steel-grey hair pulled into a severe bun, reviews charts with deliberate authority. Her scrubs are pristine, her makeup flawless, and her expression carries the weight of someone who has spent decades building walls between herself and people she deems unworthy. Rebecca's eyes land on Maya's file, and her lips press into a thin line. She strides toward the waiting area, her white sneakers squeaking against the polished floor with military precision. "Ms. Thompson?" Rebecca's voice cuts through the soft jazz playing overhead. Maya looks up hopefully, rising from her chair with some difficulty. "Yes, that's me. I've been waiting. I need to speak with you." Rebecca's tone carries no warmth. "Do you have proper insurance coverage for this facility?" Maya's brow furrows. "I have Medicaid. I called ahead and confirmed government assistance." Rebecca says the words like they taste bitter. "I'm afraid there's been a mistake. This hospital specializes in high-risk pregnancies for our premium patients. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the county hospital." The waiting room falls silent. Other patients look up from their magazines, creating an audience for Maya's humiliation. A blonde woman in Chanel whispers something to her companion behind a manicured hand. "But I made this appointment 3 weeks ago," Maya says, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "My doctor referred me here because of complications in my first trimester." Rebecca's smile could freeze water. "Complications that I'm sure the county facility is perfectly equipped to handle. They're more experienced with cases like yours." "Cases like mine?" Maya's voice drops to barely above a whisper. "Women in your situation, unwed mothers, government dependents, you understand." Maya feels heat rising in her cheeks, but her voice remains controlled. "I'm married, and I'm here because my baby needs proper care." "Of course you are, dear." Rebecca's condescending tone carries across the waiting room. "But frankly, this establishment caters to families of a certain caliber. Perhaps somewhere more appropriate to your circumstances would serve you better." The baby in Maya's womb seems to sense her distress, kicking more frequently. She places both hands on her belly, a protective gesture that doesn't go unnoticed by the watching patients. "I just want my baby to be healthy," Maya says quietly. "Then you should go where they're used to dealing with." Rebecca pauses dramatically. Challenges. Maya reaches into her purse and pulls out her phone. Her fingers move quickly across the screen. "I'm being denied service at the hospital. The reason? You can guess." She hits send, and the message shows delivered beneath a contact name that reads, "My King." Rebecca watches this interaction with growing irritation. "Mom, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're disturbing our other patients." Maya looks around the waiting room at the faces staring back at her. Some curious, some uncomfortable, but none sympathetic. She slips her phone back into her purse and meets Rebecca's cold gaze. "I'll remember this," Maya says softly. "I'm sure you will, dear. I'm sure you will." Maya Thompson was 3 years old when social services removed her from a home where love was measured in the absence of bruises. The foster care system became her education in resilience, teaching her that survival meant keeping your head up even when the world insisted you bow it. She learned early that dignity wasn't something others could give or take. It was something you carried inside yourself like a flame that could warm you through the coldest nights. At 18, she aged out of the system with a scholarship to community college and a heart full of determination. Teaching became her calling because she understood what it meant to be overlooked, dismissed, forgotten. In her classroom at Riverside Elementary, a school where free lunch wasn't stigmatized because nearly everyone qualified, Maya created the safe space she'd never had as a child. The school sits in a neighborhood where corner stores are protected by bulletproof glass and children learn to distinguish between fireworks and gunshots before they can properly tie their shoes. But inside Maya's classroom, magic happens daily. She keeps a mason jar filled with smooth river stones on her desk, each one painted by a student who overcame something difficult. The jar overflows now, a testament to small victories in a place where victories come hard-earned. Maya lives in a one-bedroom apartment above Mrs. Chen's bakery, where the smell of fresh bread rises through the floorboards each morning at 4 a.m. The furniture is second-hand but carefully chosen, arranged with the eye of someone who understands that beauty doesn't require expense, only intention. Books line every available surface, children's stories for her classroom, novels that transport her after long days, and pregnancy guides with highlighted passages and margin notes written in careful handwriting. Her Honda Civic, purchased with 5 years of saved tax refunds, sits in the narrow alley behind the building. The passenger seat holds a car seat she installed herself, following YouTube tutorials until she could do it blindfolded. She's practiced buckling and unbuckling the straps dozens of times, imagining the moment she'll place her baby there for the first time. Around her neck hangs a simple silver chain with a heart-shaped pendant, her wedding gift from David. It's not the engagement ring that sits in a jewelry box in her bedroom, a ring so beautiful and expensive it terrifies her. That ring represents a life she's not sure she's ready for, but the simple necklace represents love in its purest form. When stress threatens to overwhelm her, she finds herself touching the small silver heart, remembering the man who placed it around her neck and whispered, "This is who you are to me, my heart." David Thompson entered her life on a Tuesday afternoon at the downtown library, where Maya spent Saturdays tutoring kids who couldn't afford private help. He was there researching something, he never said what, when 5-year-old Marcus knocked over a tower of books trying to reach a picture book about dinosaurs. David caught the falling volumes before they could hit the floor, then spent the next hour reading to Marcus about T-Rex and Triceratops with voices that made the little boy giggle. Their courtship was built on library conversations and coffee shop discussions about books and dreams. David spoke about his work with hospitals in vague terms. "I help them run more efficiently," he'd say. And Maya never pressed for details. He drove a modest sedan, wore clothes that were nice but not ostentatious, and split dinner checks with her despite her protests. When he proposed in that same library corner where they'd met, he said, "I want to build a life with someone who sees the world the way you do, full of possibility and hope." The wedding was small. Maya's foster family, David's few close friends, and a handful of colleagues from school. Maya wore her grandmother's dress, altered by Mrs. Chen's nimble fingers, and David cried when she walked down the aisle of the community center, where they'd rented space for the afternoon. During their first dance to music played from someone's phone connected to a Bluetooth speaker, he whispered, "I want to give you everything." And she whispered back, "You already have." Now, 2 years later, Maya still teaches her students about kindness, while David travels frequently for work he describes as boring hospital consulting stuff. She doesn't know that her husband owns the hospitals he consults for, or that his modest lifestyle is a choice rather than a necessity. She doesn't know that the man who makes her peanut butter sandwiches for lunch is worth more money than she could count, or that the engagement ring she's too afraid to wear cost more than her apartment building. What she does know is that he loves her completely, calls her beautiful when she's grading papers in pajamas with her hair in a messy bun, and rubs her feet after long days of standing in front of chalkboards. She knows he reads pregnancy books when he thinks she's not looking, and that he's already started building a crib in their apartment's tiny second bedroom. The baby kicks now as Maya sits in her car outside Mercy General, and she places her hand on her belly. "It's okay, little one," she whispers. "Mama's going to make sure you're healthy." She tries calling David, but it goes straight to voicemail. She tries again. Nothing. The silver heart pendant catches the afternoon sunlight streaming through her windshield, and Maya closes her eyes, trying to summon the strength that carried her through foster homes and scholarship applications and the 1,000 small indignities that come with being poor in a world that equates worth with wealth. She doesn't know that everything is about to change. Maya returns to Mercy General 3 days later, armed with determination and a referral letter from the county clinic. The same marble lobby gleams under afternoon light, but today she moves with purpose born from desperation. Her morning had started with spotting. Not enough to panic about, but enough to remind her that pregnancy at 35 carries risks she can't afford to ignore. Dr. Sarah Martinez spots Maya at the reception desk and hurries over. Sarah is young, perhaps early 30s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and the slightly rumpled appearance of someone who puts patient care above perfect presentation. "Mrs. Thompson, I thought I might see you again. How are you feeling?" "I've had some spotting," Maya explains quietly. "The clinic said I need an ultrasound to check the baby's position and make sure everything's normal." Sarah nods professionally, but her expression tightens as Rebecca appears beside them like a storm cloud gathering strength. "Dr. Martinez, I believe we discussed this patient's situation earlier this week." Rebecca's voice carries the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. "Mrs. Thompson has a valid medical concern," Sarah replies firmly. "Spotting in the 3rd trimester requires immediate attention. And I'm sure the county hospital is perfectly equipped to handle such routine matters." Rebecca turns to Maya with a smile that could cut glass. "Didn't we already explain that our facility serves a different clientele?" The waiting room begins to take notice again. A woman in pearls and a Hermes bag looks up from her smartphone with undisguised curiosity. An elderly man in an expensive suit stops mid-conversation with his wife to watch the developing drama. "Mrs. Thompson's insurance may be Medicaid, but her needs are medical, not financial," Sarah says, her voice rising slightly. "We took an oath to Dr. Martinez." The new voice belongs to Dr. Phillips, the hospital administrator, a man whose silver hair and tailored suits give him the appearance of authority earned rather than purchased. "Is there a problem here?" Rebecca seizes her opportunity. "Dr. Phillips, this woman is attempting to force her way into our prenatal program despite being informed that we don't participate in government assistance programs." Phillips examines Maya with the clinical detachment of someone assessing a problem to be solved. "Ma'am, I believe Nurse Martinez here has explained our policies. Surely you understand that different facilities serve different populations. I understand that my baby might be in danger." Maya replies, her hand moving protectively to her belly. I understand that I've been a taxpayer for 15 years, and my money helps fund the government programs that support hospitals like this one. That's an interesting interpretation, Phillips says with the condescending tone reserved for children and people he considers beneath his station. But private hospitals maintain the right to choose their patient population based on compatibility. Sarah steps forward. Dr. Phillips, with respect, Mrs. Thompson's medical history indicates, Dr. Martinez, I think it's time you remembered who signs your paychecks. Phillips' voice carries a warning that resonates through the marble lobby. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at a community health center where your sympathies might be better appreciated. The threat hangs in the air like smoke. Sarah's face flushes, but she stands her ground. Are you suggesting I compromise my medical judgment for administrative convenience? I'm suggesting you remember that medicine is also a business. Phillips replies smoothly. And businesses must be selective? Maya watches this exchange with growing humiliation. Other patients whisper among themselves, some pulling out phones to record what's clearly becoming a spectacle. A teenager with her mother points directly at Maya and asks, Why is everyone staring at that lady? Rebecca moves closer to Maya, her voice dropping to a stage whisper designed to carry across the lobby. I think the problem here is that some people have difficulty understanding their place in the world. They think they're entitled to things that simply aren't meant for them. I'm entitled to medical care for my unborn child, Maya says, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Are you? Rebecca's eyebrows arch theatrically. Because from where I stand, it looks like you're entitled to exactly what you can pay for, and government handouts don't buy premium service. Phillips nods approvingly. Nurse Martinez has summarized our position perfectly. Now, I'm going to have to ask you to leave before this situation becomes more disruptive than it already has. Maya feels the weight of every eye in the lobby pressing down on her shoulders. The blonde woman with the Chanel bag is openly filming now, her phone held high enough to capture Maya's humiliation from the best angle. An elderly couple near the window shakes their heads in disapproval. Whether at Maya's presence or the staff's behavior remains unclear. My baby, Maya begins, then stops. The words feel inadequate against the wall of institutional indifference facing her. Your baby will be fine, Rebecca says dismissively. Women have been having babies for thousands of years without premium medical care. I'm sure you'll figure it out. Security arrives in the form of 2 guards in navy blue uniforms, their presence transforming what had been a medical discussion into something that feels distinctly criminal. The larger guard, a man whose name tag reads Johnson, approaches Maya with the practiced wariness of someone accustomed to removing unwanted people from spaces where they don't belong. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me, Johnson says, not unkindly but with the authority of someone who won't be argued with. I just want medical care, Maya says, but her voice sounds small in the vast lobby. And there are places for that, Phillips replies. This simply isn't one of them. As the guards escort Maya toward the exit, Rebecca calls out loudly enough for everyone to hear. Some people never learn. They think if they make enough noise, the rules will change for them. But rules exist for a reason. The automatic doors slide open, and Maya finds herself standing on the sidewalk outside Mercy General, one hand on her belly and the other clutching her purse containing the referral letter that had given her hope just 30 minutes earlier. She pulls out her phone and tries David again. Straight to voicemail. David, it's me again. I'm at the hospital and there's a problem. Please call me back. I'm scared about the baby. She sits on a bench across from the hospital entrance and watches well-dressed patients walk through doors that remain closed to her. The afternoon sun beats down on her shoulders, and she finds herself touching the silver heart at her throat, whispering a prayer she learned as a child in foster care. Please, God, let someone care enough to help. The black Mercedes S-Class pulls into the hospital's circular drive with the quiet authority of expensive German engineering. David Thompson steps out, his 6'2" frame unfolding from the driver's seat, with the fluid movement of someone comfortable in his own skin. Today's Armani suit, navy blue with subtle pinstripes, would cost more than most people's monthly salary, but he wears it like casual Friday attire, his mind entirely focused on finding his wife. He spots Maya immediately. She's sitting on the concrete bench across from the main entrance, her shoulders curved inward in a posture he recognizes from her worst teaching days. But this is different. This is his wife, pregnant with his child, sitting outside his hospital like someone who's been thrown away. Maya. He reaches her in 6 long strides, dropping to one knee beside the bench. Baby, what are you doing out here? Your appointment was an hour ago. Maya looks up with eyes that shimmer with unshed tears. They wouldn't let me in. They said people like me don't belong there. David's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. People like you? Poor people. Black people. Government assistance people. Maya's voice catches. They were so cruel, David. I just wanted someone to check on our baby. David helps Maya to her feet, his arm sliding around her waist with protective instinct. Who said these things to you? The head nurse, Rebecca something, and the administrator, Dr. Phillips. They made it clear that I wasn't welcome. Maya leans into her husband's strength. I tried calling you. I was in meetings with my phone off. I'm so sorry. David's voice carries a note Maya's never heard before, something cold and dangerous beneath the warmth. Show me exactly what happened. They walk through the automatic doors together, and the change in atmosphere is immediate. The same receptionist who had dismissed Maya 3 days earlier straightens in her chair as if an electric current has passed through the building. Mr. Thompson, sir, we didn't know you were coming in today. Her voice carries the breathless quality of someone trying to prevent disaster. Maya stops walking. How does she know your name? David's hand finds the small of her back, steadying her. We'll talk about that in a minute. First, I want to hear what happened. Dr. Phillips appears as if summoned by some invisible alarm system, his silver hair perfectly styled, and his professional smile radiating the kind of warmth reserved for very important people. David, what brings you by? If you'd called ahead, I could have cleared my schedule. Actually, Phillips, I'm here about my wife. David's voice carries conversational lightness that doesn't reach his eyes. She was here earlier for a prenatal appointment and seems to have encountered some confusion about hospital policy. Phillips's expression shifts through several emotions in rapid succession: confusion, recognition, and finally, horror. His eyes move from David to Maya and back again, calculating implications with the speed of someone whose career depends on reading situations correctly. Your wife? Phillips's voice cracks slightly on the word. Maya Thompson, my wife of 2 years. David's arm tightens around Maya protectively. The woman your staff apparently decided wasn't welcome in my hospital. The lobby, which had been buzzing with typical afternoon activity, falls silent as conversations die mid-sentence. The blonde woman with the Chanel bag, who had been so eager to film Maya's humiliation earlier, slowly lowers her phone as the implications become clear. Rebecca appears from the nurse's station, drawn by the unusual quiet. She sees David and her face lights up with professional recognition, then immediately darkens as she processes his proximity to Maya. Mr. Thompson, if you're here about the disruption earlier, I want you to know we handled it according to protocol. We simply can't have people who don't meet our standards creating disturbances for our valued patients. The words hang in the air like a confession. David releases Maya gently and takes a step toward Rebecca, his hands clasped behind his back in a gesture that suggests barely controlled restraint. "Tell me, Nurse Martinez, what exactly are our standards?" "Well, we serve a certain clientele, you understand. Families of standing, people who can appreciate the level of care we provide." Rebecca's confidence begins to waver as she notices the expressions of everyone around her. People who fit. Fit. David's voice drops to barely above a whisper, but it carries clearly across the marble lobby. My wife doesn't fit in my own hospital. The realization hits Rebecca like a physical blow. Her face drains of color as she looks from David to Maya, finally understanding the magnitude of her mistake. She's... Rebecca stammers. "She's my wife, the mother of my child, the woman you humiliated and threw out of the building I own." David's voice remains conversational, but there's steel beneath the silk. "The woman you told didn't belong here." Philip steps forward, sweat beading on his forehead despite the lobby's perfect climate control. "David, there's obviously been a terrible misunderstanding. If you'd known what?" David interrupts. "If you'd known she was married to me, you would have treated her with basic human dignity? Is that your standard of care, Phillips?" Maya finds her voice, soft but clear in the silent lobby. "David, how do they all know you?" David turns to face his wife, and for the first time since entering the building, his expression softens. "Because I own this hospital, Maya. I own 12 hospitals across the state." The confession drops into the silence like a stone into still water, sending ripples of shock through everyone present. Maya stares at her husband, this man who drives a modest car and splits dinner checks and builds cribs with his own hands, as pieces of a puzzle she didn't know existed begin falling into place. "You own this place?" Maya's voice barely qualifies as a whisper. "I own Mercy General and 11 others. I've owned them for 8 years. David reaches for her hand. "I wanted to tell you, but I needed you to love me for who I am, not what I have. Maya's eyes move around the lobby, taking in the marble floors, the expensive art, the designer furniture, as understanding dawns. All those business trips, board meetings, site visits, hospital consultations." David's thumb traces circles on her palm. "I'm sorry I hid this from you. I wanted our love to be real." Rebecca, who has been standing frozen in horror, suddenly finds her voice. "Mr. Thompson, if I had known... we have protocols, but certainly..." David's attention snaps back to her with laser focus. "Certainly what, Rebecca? Certainly you would have treated my wife differently if you'd known she was connected to money?" "That's not... I didn't mean..." Rebecca's professional composure crumbles completely. "Because the woman you threw out of this building today? She's a teacher who spends her own money on school supplies for kids whose parents can't afford them. She tutors children for free every Saturday at the public library. She's never asked me for anything except love." David's voice builds with controlled intensity. "And you decided she wasn't good enough for medical care because she didn't look like your idea of what wealth should look like." Dr. Sarah Martinez appears at the edge of the crowd that has gathered, her eyes wide as she processes what she's witnessing. Maya notices her and manages a small smile of recognition. "Dr. Martinez tried to help me," Maya says quietly. "She stood up for me when no one else would." David nods acknowledgement to Sarah before returning his attention to Phillips and Rebecca. "I built this hospital system on the principle that quality healthcare should be accessible to everyone. I named this place Mercy General because mercy, compassion, was supposed to be our foundation." Phillips attempts damage control. "David, I'm sure we can resolve this misunderstanding. Rebecca was simply following what she thought were appropriate policies." "What policies exactly?" David's question cuts through Phillips's explanation. Show me the written policy that says we don't treat Medicaid patients. Show me the protocol that allows staff to humiliate expectant mothers based on their appearance or insurance status. Silence stretches across the lobby as Phillips realizes he can't produce documents that don't exist. David continues, his voice carrying to every corner of the space. Because what I witnessed today wasn't policy. It was prejudice, it was cruelty disguised as professionalism, it was everything I built this place to stand against. Maya steps closer to her husband, placing her hand on his arm. David. He covers her hand with his own. I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry I wasn't here when you needed me. I'm sorry my staff made you feel less than the incredible woman you are. Rebecca makes one last desperate attempt at self-preservation. Mr. Thompson, I was just trying to maintain the hospital's reputation. We have to think about our image. Our image. David's voice drops to a dangerous quiet. Our image is that we turned away a pregnant woman seeking medical care because she looked poor to you. Our image is that we value appearance over human dignity. Is that the reputation you think I want for my hospitals? David doesn't use his power to seek revenge. Instead, he uses it to create justice. He announces that effective immediately, Rebecca is terminated and Dr. Sarah Martinez is promoted to Chief of Obstetrics. He establishes a $50 million foundation to provide free healthcare to anyone who needs it, regardless of their ability to pay. I want to make one thing clear to everyone here, David says, his voice carrying to every corner of the lobby. Mercy General Hospital will provide excellent medical care to anyone who needs it, regardless of their insurance status, race, economic background, or any other factor that has nothing to do with their medical needs. Rebecca attempts a final protest. This isn't over. You can't just destroy people's lives because of one mistake. David doesn't turn around, but his voice carries clearly back to her. Rebecca, I didn't destroy your life. I just stopped you from destroying someone else's. As they head to the elevator for Maya's long overdue prenatal appointment, Maya processes everything that has happened. So, billionaire, huh? David's shoulders relax for the first time since entering the building. Yeah. Surprise? Maya touches her belly, feeling their baby move beneath her palm. I married a secret billionaire who builds hospitals and fights for justice. I could think of worse surprises. You're not angry. Maya considers the question as the elevator climbs towards the obstetrics floor. Ask me again after I've had time to process everything. Right now, I'm just grateful our baby is going to be okay. Our baby is going to be more than okay, David says, pulling her close. Our baby is going to grow up in a world where we don't let people like Rebecca Martinez define who belongs and who doesn't. The ultrasound shows a healthy, active baby girl, and Dr. Martinez, now Chief of Obstetrics, ensures Maya receives the best possible care. As they look at their daughter on the monitor, Maya realizes that her earlier spotting has stopped completely, the stress of discrimination replaced by the peace of belonging. You know what the strangest part is? Maya says to David as they watch their baby on screen. What's that? I spent the whole day feeling like I didn't belong here. But this whole time, this was my hospital too. David takes her hand as their daughter kicks on the monitor. No, Maya. This whole time, you were the reason this hospital exists at all. 6 months later, Maya sits in her Honda Civic outside Riverside Elementary, watching baby Hope sleep in the back seat while her students play on the playground. Maya chose to keep teaching and living modestly, despite David's offers of luxury. The apartment above Mrs. Chen's bakery remains their home, though David quietly renovated it for their growing family. The changes at Mercy General have been transformative. The Thompson Healthcare Foundation provides free care to thousands of families. Dr. Sarah Martinez has reformed hospital policies to ensure dignity for all patients. Rebecca found work elsewhere, but sent Maya a letter. Not quite an apology, but an acknowledgement that she'd been wrong. Maya's classroom now displays artwork from children at the hospital's pediatric ward, painted stones of hope that connect her students to the wider community they're helping to heal. Every day, she teaches her students that everyone belongs, everyone matters, and everyone can make a difference. Hope Thompson was born in the same delivery room where Maya had once been denied care. Dr. Martinez performed the delivery, and David cried when he cut the umbilical cord. Their daughter's first photo shows her in Maya's arms, with David beside them wearing an expression of pure love. "She's perfect," David whispered as Hope nursed for the first time. "She's ours," Maya replied, understanding that perfection had nothing to do with circumstances and everything to do with love. Maya still wears the simple silver heart necklace, now joined by a wedding band David designed with diamonds arranged like stars. "Because you light up everything around you," he said when he gave it to her. The expensive engagement ring appears only on formal occasions, but the star ring and heart necklace represent their real story. Love chosen over purchased, earned over given. Today, Maya records a voice memo for Hope. "Hi, baby girl. Today I want to tell you about the day I learned that belonging isn't something other people give you. It's something you claim for yourself and then ensure for others." She pauses, watching her students play together across all lines of difference. "Your daddy owns hospitals now, but someday you might not. You might be rich or poor or something in between. But I want you to remember that your worth isn't determined by what you have, or what you look like, or where you come from." Hope stirs, and Maya reaches back to touch her daughter's tiny hand. "When you see someone being treated unfairly, you have a choice. You can look away, or you can step forward and say, 'Not on my watch.' We chose to step forward, and it changed everything." As Maya drives past Mercy General on her way to school, she sees the sign David installed. "Compassionate care for all, a hospital where everyone belongs." The lobby now features student artwork, including a mural her fourth graders painted showing families of all backgrounds holding hands beneath a rainbow. The foundation has provided care to over 10,000 families in its first 6 months. Maya serves on the board, bringing grassroots perspective to institutional change. David volunteers in her classroom when possible, learning about education challenges from someone who faces them daily. Their marriage, rebuilt on complete honesty, has become a partnership in both love and justice. They've learned that power without compassion is meaningless, that wealth without purpose is hollow, and that love without justice is incomplete. At school, Maya settles Hope in the classroom bouncy seat as her students gather around excitedly. "Mrs. Thompson, can Hope watch us paint stones for the hospital kids?" asks Marcus. "She's too little to paint," another student points out. "But she can learn how to help people before she can even talk," suggests Aisha with 8-year-old wisdom. Maya smiles at these children, her daily reminder that the future is built one lesson at a time. "You know what? That's exactly right. We'll show Hope how to help people, and maybe by the time she's your age, the world will be even more fair than it is now." As her students work on their stones of hope for hospitalized children, Maya thinks about the painted stone on her desk, rough and faded but carrying a message from a former student. "You made me feel like I mattered." That stone reminds her that change happens one moment at a time, one person at a time, one choice at a time. Hope opens her eyes as the students work, taking in the voices and colors of children, learning that everyone belongs. Maya touches the silver heart at her throat and begins her lesson about kindness and justice, teaching while her daughter sleeps nearby, dreaming dreams that will help shape tomorrow's more equitable world. "Welcome to school, baby girl," Maya whispers. "This is where we learn that everyone belongs, everyone matters, and everyone can change the world." Outside, Mercy General rises against the sky, its windows catching sunlight like a beacon of what's possible when people choose courage over comfort, justice over convenience, love over fear. Change continues to ripple outward from that day when Maya Thompson refused to accept that she didn't belong, proving that sometimes the most important revolutions begin with one person's refusal to be dismissed. Maya hopes that when hope grows up, she'll carry forward the lesson that power without compassion is meaningless, wealth without purpose is hollow, and love without justice is incomplete. But mostly she hopes hope will know that everyone deserves to hear and believe. Once upon a time, there was a place where everyone belonged, and that place was wherever people like you decided to make it so.